Hi everyone, I'm Heather Wen, a retired nurse practitioner and the founder and practitioner at Arizona Healing Alternatives. On this channel, you'll find several videos, what I like to call aha moments, where we'll be discussing issues that impact your health. So whether you decide to use Western medicine, alternative medicine, or even a mix of both, I'm passionate about you knowing what your options are. So now we're into a new year, and with a new year, let's start fresh. In this two-part series, I want to talk to you guys about self-care versus self-sacrifice. And the first thing to know is, how do you know you're sacrificing yourself instead of taking care of yourself if you don't even know how you feel? So the first part, we're going to talk about emotions. How do we identify them? What do we do? What are the differences between men and women when it comes to that? How do we identify those things so that you'll know if you're taking care of yourself or you're really sacrificing yourself? And then part two, once you got that and you know how you feel, then what are you supposed to do with that? So stay tuned. It's important to know in this upcoming series, so here come the disclaimers, which is that similar to other videos that I've talked about communication in couples and things like that, and male-female communication and different things with that, I'm simply sharing with you my own personal experience and things that I've heard from the wonderful trainers and teachers that I've had. But I'm not a trained psychologist, I'm not a trained psychiatrist, nor a trained therapist. As you know, I specialize in doing emotional reprogramming and other things based on total body modification, applied kinesiology principles, and being trained and certified in clinical hypnosis. So once again, and also my experiences as a nurse practitioner and helping people through a lot of things. For this first part, when we talk about self-care versus self-sacrifice, we need to talk about, how do you feel? Has anybody ever come up to you and said, how you doing? You just go, yeah, fine, good, I'm good. Or when someone says how you feel, oh really? Oh my gosh, I feel terrible today. But some people really don't know how they feel about certain things or how they're feeling about themselves or things in general. I can give you a really good example, which would be practitioner, right? I could give you a really good example from when I was in my 20s and I'm now in my 50s. Did I say that out loud? But basically what happens is when I was in my 20s, I was spending so much time and spent so much of my time taking care of others and taking care of others and taking care of others. Does this sound familiar to some of you? People take care of people in different ways, whether it could be financial, it could be emotional, it could be a bit of both. That all of a sudden I was so busy taking care of other people that in fact, it's sort of comical now when I look back on it. But basically, I didn't even know how I felt. It was like, my needs, what I want, I didn't even know how to respond to that. So much so that I would find myself, if I was upset about a certain thing, it took me almost, and no joke guys, took me sometimes up to a year to figure out I was upset about something. So then if we fast forward to when I was in my mid-20s, I actually was I knew that I didn't feel right. I knew I was under a great deal of stress. I just didn't understand why I was under so much stress or what to do about it. I ended up having my very first counseling session with a marriage and family counselor. And I went in, no joke, and started talking about things or whatever. And at a certain point, I think it was on my second or third session, I think, with this individual, what ended up happening was he looked me straight in the face and said, you think you're burdening me, don't you? And I lost it. And I don't cry in front of people. Those of you that know me, I don't tend to cry in front of people that often. I lost it and started crying everywhere. And he pointed out, he said, you're so used to denying your own needs and denying, those things that you actually feel like you're coming in here and you're paying me. This was the therapist talking. You're paying me to listen and help you through your stuff, and yet you feel like you're burdening me, and that's where we need to start. And that was a pivotal moment in my life of starting to realize when I was spending so much time, I didn't even know how to identify my emotions or what to do with them. So in this first part, I want to talk about some of the things that he taught me and some things that I've learned along the way, just being a nurse and doing the things that I do now. One of the first things has to do with how do you know what to do about stuff if you don't even know how you're feeling? Because truly, somebody would come out to me and they'd say, "Hey, oh, I'm fine, good, fine, great." And meanwhile, there's all sorts of things going on and stressors going on behind the scenes that I just didn't want to share with anyone. Okay, and so when that happens, the first exercise was just to either kind of feel a sensation. Let's say you're at a red light and you're getting impatient. Well, instead of just denying that and stuffing it in and making it cause all sorts of medical problems, basically what you can do is just identify and say it out loud to yourself. God, it's so frustrating waiting for this red light. I just feel frustrated. Great. That's the first step in that. What's the feeling? Now, some people feel the feelings in their body, and some people, they just, all of a sudden, they just feel tense and they're tight and they did it. And it's asking yourself and taking the time, why am I so tight? What am I stressed out about? And asking some basic questions. Am I feeling? What am I feeling? Now, this is easier for women by and large, but not necessarily, because like I said, I stuffed everything, okay? So, but by and large, women though are allowed certain emotions, right? So the differences between men and women are allowed to feel sad, women are allowed to feel upset about things, this sort of thing. It's more acceptable. Women are allowed to cry and that stuff's more acceptable. But basically, women are not allowed to be angry. And that's a big disservice, because the minute women get angry and upset about something, it either turns passive aggressive. So what does that mean? Passive aggressive means that when somebody comes, a good example, how you doing today? Oh, I'm fine. So passive, because I don't want to go into it, right? But aggressive, because you can tell that person's not fine. So, and there's different avenues of passive aggressive, and that's a whole nother video. But basically, women, we tend to think of women, if they're angry about something, how they take it out, on another person, which we talked about in other videos about things being constructive versus destructive. It needs to be constructive anger. But we don't even allow oftentimes women to be angry, which is why it gets stuffed and then it comes out in even worse anger sometimes. So that's a disservice we do to women. The disservice we do to men is that we don't allow them to feel sad. We don't allow them to cry. We don't allow them to have the grieving process. And I've done some other videos on that. But basically, it's we do a disservice to not just identify an emotion, right? Identify it. So what is it? Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I angry? Am I frustrated? All sorts of different emotions that you can feel. Am I feeling great? Am I joyous? Am I happy? Whatever it is, it's just simply observe it and identify it. Another great exercise is one that Dr. Judith Larkin-Reno trained me in, which was to be able to, when we're figuring out what we're experiencing or what we're feeling and identifying, is to picture yourself going through your day with a little camera on your shoulder and picture that it's just recording everything that's happening. So it's the same thing as when an emotion comes up, it's like you're recording what is happening, so you can start to identify that, sort of as if you're observing your own day. Because when you observe and you identify that, the great part about it is then you can go to the next step, which we'll cover in the next video. But it's always important, whether you're identifying these emotions, and similar when I do emotional reprogramming on somebody, when we are able to muscle test, I'm able to muscle test their body to which emotion. And let me tell you, there are pages and pages of different emotions and different organs that they go to that I use in emotional reprogramming. And on that, depending on what the emotion is, then it's what's going on with you. So basically, if it's just anger, let's say you're frustrated at that red light, I'm just frustrated, then that's a good start. And that took me years and years to recognize when something, it didn't matter whether it was happy, whatever, it was an exercise that I would have to do over and over again just to identify it. Just start there. Identify it, because then you'll know what you want. And I think that's really important. How do you know if you're taking care of yourself, self-care versus self-sacrifice, if you don't even know how you feel? You've got to know how you feel about things first. And once I was able to do that, then I realized how much I was holding on to stuff, and I was afraid to identify emotions because I was afraid that my job is really to please everybody else, be there for everybody else and please everybody else, right? So when I was doing that and not pleasing myself, I was cutting off myself to my emotions, which was not okay. And now if I'm upset about something, I'll know about it just like that. And then I'll know what to do about it. Or if I'm happy about something, that's great. I'll know how I'm feeling about something instead of closing off all those feelings and closing them down. And when you do that, eventually it does take its toll on the body. Even with high blood pressure, what do they say? As far as bringing stresses down, things like that. Well, if you don't even know that you're upset about something, it's not surprising that you might have high blood pressure. So I hope in this first part that's been helpful to you to just play around with that. Start asking yourself, how do I feel? Do I feel happy? Do I feel sad? How do I feel, first of all? And just leave it at that. And once you do that, then we'll go on next time to step 2. Now what do I do about it? So I know whether I'm really taking care of myself or I'm spending most of my time taking care of others instead of doing that. Thank you so much for watching this first part. If you like what you've seen, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to, you can hit that notification bell. Then anytime new videos come out, you'll be notified. Take care, and I'll see you in part 2.